Well, welcome to Love Your Money, Kara.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be
It's nice
here.
to have you. Yeah. Sorry your business partner couldn't join, but maybe this is one of the
Yeah.
benefits of having a partner is you don't both have to be here.
This is the benefit of having a partner.
Yeah.
We definitely use that benefit. Not all the time, but when one of us isn't available for something and the other one is, it makes it a lot easier than
It's
just
nice.
having one
It's nice to
person.
have someone to support you through things. Yeah. Lovely.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm excited about our conversation because there's so many myths and mysteries about prenups and postnups, and you have the real deal. So let's just start with definitions. What is a prenup?
So a prenup is an agreement between two individuals who
Huh?
intend to become spouses. And it typically revolves around money and property.
Okay.
There are certain things that cannot go into prenups, like anything that violates public policy or anything having to do with like unborn children. Those are things that cannot go in prenups.
Okay. So you're essentially pre-contracting for how your money and property will be separated in the event of a divorce, disability, death. Are those involved?
So, in the event of a divorce, yes, but also during the marriage. So,
Oh,
this is a contract between both of you as how you want to deal with your money throughout your marriage, not necessarily just in your divorce.
yeah.
What a prenup allows people to do is take California law,
No.
understand it, hopefully, by the time they're done with the process, and make their own decisions about how they want to deal with their money. Because whether you realize it or not, California has given you a prenup. It's just in the form of the family code.
Right.
And they're telling you what is going to happen if you divorce, but also during the marriage. There's a whole slew of laws about how people are supposed to act with each other during the marriage that most people don't even realize.
No, I don't think I did realize that. I've always thought of this as an exit plan. What are some of the ways the state says people should interact with their money while they're married?
So, the family code actually references the business and professions code with regard to fiduciary duties
Okay.
and how you are supposed to be open and honest with your spouse about all of the money
Oh,
throughout the entire marriage.
huh. Okay. And then,
Hmm.
so let's say both parties are coming to the marriage with assets, but let's say one party has 5 million, the other party has 500,000, and the one who has 5 million would like to protect that money. Does the prenup dictate how that $5 million lump sum gets interacted with during the marriage?
So, in large part, everything that you come to the marriage with is your separate property. It continues to be your separate property throughout marriage, regardless of whether or not you have a prenup.
Okay.
The prenup is important with regard to in what form those assets are,
Okay.
right? How are they coming in? Are they coming in as a checking account, as a brokerage account, as interest in a business, interest in real property? Um, if they're in just accounts, normal accounts, you just keep those separate. They stay separate. If you don't touch them throughout the marriage, in the event of a divorce, they're still yours, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
a prenup. Where it gets a little bit tricky is when you have things like businesses, real estate with mortgages, and things like that. Those are two items where if someone is coming into a marriage with either a business or real estate, they need to talk to a family law attorney. They may
Okay.
choose not to do a prenup. Totally fine. That's their choice. But they really should talk to someone and understand how those assets get dealt with in the event of a divorce because they can be very messy. It's not as simple as, okay, I'm just going to show all my statements and none of the community property went into this account, so therefore it's mine. If, for instance, on mortgages, if community property is being used to pay down the mortgage, that gives the community a percentage interest in the house.
Mm-hmm.
in the event of a divorce.
So,
And businesses are even more messy.
yeah. So obviously things get complex quickly, but the things to think about are the assets that you already have, what form they're in, and then do you do a prenup or not? And then how do you pay for those or service those or support or maintain those assets during the marriage? And if you're paying from community assets, which are, things, money you earned after you got married, that could mitigate the cleanliness, the boundaries around those separately held assets, correct?
Yeah. So if
Okay.
you start paying for things with community money, it starts to commingle things and it makes things complicated.
Okay.
One of the things the prenup allows you to do, though, is keep all of your money separate throughout the marriage. So
All of even the money you earn after you got married.
correct.
Okay. Why would you want to do that?
So this is one of those ways in which a prenup can dictate what is happening, not only in the event of a divorce, but during your marriage, right? How you are defining your property rights and your money rights during the marriage. You can override California's community property law to say everything acquired during the marriage is community by doing a prenup and agreeing with your spouse. Everything that we earn throughout the marriage is going to be separate.
Okay.
And your money's your money, my money's my money. A lot of people will have a joint account to where they're paying community bills from, right? Food, PG&E, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in large part, their money is going to be their money. And more people are doing this as they get married later in life. They have assets, they have 401ks, they have brokerage accounts, real estate. And when you already have all of those assets and you need to fund those assets, right? You have that mortgage you still have to pay. It makes it a lot cleaner if everything remains separate. And then you can pay that mortgage from separate money and there's no commingling. Right? The other person's not getting an interest in that property. It's a choice that some people make. Not everyone makes it, right? You can do a prenup and still say all of our money going into the marriage is going to be community property. And that's a choice that people make too. What's really important for me, honestly, is making sure that the couple has these conversations about how they want to deal with the money before the marriage. Because so many marriages fail because there's that lack of communication.
Right. They just don't talk about it.
Exactly. They don't talk about it. They don't know coming into the marriage, oh, you had $200,000 of student loan debt? What?
Yeah.
It's
a material piece of information.
Yeah, exactly. But so many people don't talk about this before they get married. And prenups force that on you. They force you to disclose all of your assets, all of your debts, so that the agreements can be made with full knowledge of everything that's on the table. So that is one of the things I really, really do like about prenups is that it opens up those lines of communication for people. And, a lot of people, when they get married, they're like, oh, we're just in love. And a prenup kind of kills that vibe, right? But honestly, if you want to have a long-lasting relationship, you need to have these hard conversations with your spouse. You need to have that open line of communication, because if you don't, when things do get hard, and they always will, life can be hard and marriage is hard. You have to be able to talk to your spouse.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come up anyway. It's going to come up when it has to come up, or it's going to come up when you choose to have it come up. It's kind of like you get to pick. You don't get to avoid the topic altogether. Okay, and so just point of information, each party needs their own attorney. Is that correct?
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
It is not necessarily absolutely required, but ideally, yes. You want to have both parties represented. So if you are dealing with spousal support in a prenuptial agreement, each party has to be represented. Otherwise, it is not valid. So that is one piece about prenuptial agreements that you can make a contract about. Spousal support, i.e. alimony. You can contract about it in a prenuptial agreement, but if you're going to do so, each side has to have an attorney by law. But if you don't have that in there, one person could be unrepresented, but I really don't recommend it.
Right. For obvious reasons. I mean, you want to know that each party went in clear-headed and fully informed and nobody gave biased advice. Approximate cost of a prenup agreement? Is there a range?
It depends. Depends on the hourly rate of the attorney. There are some attorneys who will do it flat fee. We don't do anything flat fee in family law because we quite frankly just don't know how it's going to go. I've had prenups that have cost $2,000. I've had prenups that have cost $10,000.
Okay.
So it really just depends. Typically they're somewhere in the middle, right? Somewhere around like $4.
So about the cost
normal.
of an estate plan.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. So most people have heard of a prenup. If they didn't know the details, I'm sure you've elucidated the details a little bit already today. But what's a postnup?
So a postnup is very similar to a prenup in that it is two spouses contracting about property and income, except it happens after they're already married. So a postnup is obviously kind of the same. You can deal with the same kinds of things. You can decide partway through the marriage that you want to assign certain assets to certain people, and then even say, okay, from this point on, our income is going to be separate. Or you can do all of that. You cannot deal with spousal support. That is one thing with the postnup that is, that one is different. Spousal support is one of those tricky things. People will try and put that in there, but I always tell my clients, like, this isn't actually enforceable because the family code specifically says for postnups that it can only deal with property.
Oh, huh. Well, that's interesting. So it's like they either changed their mind after they got married, or for some reason they're thinking differently about the agreement after they got married versus before. In other words, it seems like it's always better to do it before.
Yes, it's certainly more enforceable.
Okay.
It is definitely better to do a prenup, but sometimes postnups can honestly save marriages. Right. So different people have different spending habits.
Right.
And with a postnup, and if people are fighting about money all the time, they can use a postnup to say, okay, we're going to split things up. You deal with your accounts. That's on you. I will deal with my accounts. Those are mine. And it can be a way to save some marriages because, maybe the love isn't gone, but there's just so much discord and fighting over the money. And that's one way to help.
Tough. So what can people expect from the process of creating a prenup or a postnup? How long does it take? How many meetings? Are they together, separate?
So they're going to be separate meetings because each party should be represented by their own individual attorney. They should not be having meetings together, typically. If they are having meetings together, it's usually, everyone together. But that's not to say that the parties can't talk to each other. They should talk to each other. The way that we do prenups is once a client retains, we will send them a questionnaire going through a whole laundry list of things, some things just to get the conversation flowing with the other person. And it's very long and comprehensive because everyone has different issues, right? Every individual is different in the assets that they have, the work that they do. So we try and cover everything and tell them, go through this with your spouse. You guys go through what, talk about it, come up with the agreements, what you guys want to have in this prenup, and then give it back to me, and then we'll draft it.
Uh-huh.
The way to make prenups expensive is to just have one person go to an attorney and say, this is what I want, and not talked to the other spouse.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. That $10,000 prenup that I was talking about, that's what happened.
Uh-huh.
So we've definitely learned from this to say, oh, we're not going to draft anything until you guys are on the same page about what you want in this document. Because once you guys are on the same page and both people can go and talk to their respective attorneys about, what they are entitled to, what they think is fair, come back with each other, decide between each other what they want to have in it, then we'll draft it. And that dramatically cuts down on the cost, because once they're in agreement, there's going to be very little back and forth between attorneys about the actual content of the agreement. There might be a few language changes here and there, but it's usually not a fight and a negotiation back and forth when the couple is on board.
Understood. So it's just like a divorce. The less attorney time you use, the less it costs.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. We're charging for our time.
Right.
The other thing that we have them do is go through the disclosure process. So, like I mentioned earlier, each party has to tell the other one about all of their assets, all of their debts. And we'll use the same forms as we use in a divorce.
Yeah.
Because the court has already said these are adequate disclosures, right? And there's no real law on what's an adequate disclosure for prenups, but you can have a prenup overturned for inadequate disclosures. So we want to make sure that everyone is fully informed to the extent possible that we can. And we'll have them fill out the forms with all of their assets, all of their debts, attach a recent statement for all of their accounts, deeds to any properties that they have. And we'll send that over to the other side, and then they'll send their stuff over. And those assets and debts are also listed out in the prenup as an exhibit, so that there is a record with the prenup as to what assets and debts each person had coming into the marriage. Because that is usually top of their list that they want to protect, is whatever they're coming into it with.
Right. Protect the assets. The debts can be joint. We can, those can be in the community, honey. Do you think, are the considerations any different for hetero couples versus same-sex couples?
No.
Identical.
It's identical. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the unique and or sticky situations that a pre or post-nup can help people avoid?
So prenups, obviously with spousal support, a lot of times we have people come in who this is their second or maybe third marriage, and they really want to make sure that they're not going to go through that nasty divorce again.
Yeah.
Right? So they want to have everything very clean and laid out, that this is what's going to happen if things go south. And this is the amount of spousal support that someone can receive. I caution people with spousal support agreements, though, because they are reviewed by the court differently than property agreements. Property agreements, the court's going to look at it and say, did you know what you were agreeing to? And you signed off on it. Okay, it is what it is, right? Spousal support is different in that the court's not going to look at it and just say, well, did you know what you were agreeing to? They're going to look at it and say, is this unconscionable, either at the time you signed it or now?
Because, interesting, really.
Because you don't know what's going to happen in life. And especially if people are getting married young, right? They don't have kids yet. They don't know if one of them is going to stay home and watch the kids and give up their career. And if you've agreed to keep everything separate, one person's giving up a lot
Right.
in order to stay home with the children.
One person doesn't have two nickels to rub together. Right.
Exactly. So the court will look at spousal support agreements a little bit differently.
Okay.
In that, I just try and caution people to try and make things as fair as possible. Because otherwise, they run the risk of it getting overturned. And even complete waivers of spousal support really run the risk of getting overturned.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, that's fascinating. Okay, good to know. The court has a heart. I didn't know.
Yes, the family court is technically a court of equity.
And okay, so conversely, so the sticky situations include you 20 years ago not having made good decisions for you today. So what we've learned is that the court may step in and actually help you out. Do you think there's a downside to prenups? Prenups have a really weird reputation, right? The general consensus is only selfish, stingy people get prenups. What do people say to you about prenups? Or do you even address that with people?
I do, and I get that a lot. And I just don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, I think they're a very good tool to have people open up those lines of communication ahead of the marriage and use that as a roadmap for the marriage and for them to communicate with each other and for them to decide what they think is fair with each other going into that marriage.
Do you ever get one party really just doesn't want a prenup and the other party does?
Typically, no. Yeah, that's not typically something that I see.
Because they wouldn't show up to your office, right?
Right. You're not required to have a prenup.
Right.
So if one person doesn't want to have a prenup, the other option is you just don't get married.
Right. And speaking of not getting married, I mean, this is a trend, right? More and more people are eschewing the traditional institution of marriage. Do you have any clients that aren't married? I mean, is there a way to pre-contract for things financially if you're not married?
There is. So depending on, what assets they own, there are people that, are cohabitating and, maybe they'll buy a house together, but they're not actually getting married and they don't intend to get married. And that's fine.
Right.
But with that house, right, there needs to be certain agreements. And in that respect, we can do what's called a cohabitation agreement. And that, kind of similar to a prenup, will lay out, if this relationship ends, this is what's going to happen with the property. And during the relationship, this is how we're going to deal with finances. And these are the agreements that we're going to make with each other in order to keep everything running smoothly.
Okay, so you do cohabitation agreements?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see. So if an unmarried couple came to you and said, we're going to buy real estate, or let's say you're at a cocktail party and they say, yo, we're buying a $2 million house. It's a 1-bedroom fixer-upper in San Jose, California. And what would be your advice to them? Don't do it. Get a cohabitation agreement.
An unmarried couple buying property, definitely get a cohabitation agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people just don't think about the things that they hope won't happen, like disability, extended illness, unemployment, right? I mean, so many things can go wrong when you share a piece of property and here you are, I have to live here with you, right? Who's going to pay the mortgage, right?
Who's going to pay the mortgage? The other thing about that, honestly, is that people don't understand title. They don't
Say more about that.
understand what happens when you title properties in certain ways.
Right.
And when you buy the property, the real estate agent can't advise you. The mortgage broker can't advise you because they're not attorneys.
Right.
So then they end up taking title in ways that they regret later, which is also something that we end up seeing. We'll do what's called transmutation agreements, where we can change the character of the property mid-marriage to either be separate or community or fixed titling issues, right? Maybe they bought it as joint tenants, but then they need it to be community property so that they can put it into a community property trust.
Right. I mean, just as an example, you tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I usually say to people. If you take title as joint tenants and someone dies, well, now that person's beneficiary co-owns your house with you. So it might be their mother, their brother, their ex-girlfriend. Tell me.
That's tenants in common.
That
is tenants in common. So joint tenants is you both wholly own the property equally. It's kind of like community property in that if you did a partition action and had to split the house, you would each get 50%.
Okay, so with joint tenants, if one person dies, you now own the property 100%.
Yes, but it's a lot easier if you're also add on there with right of survivorship.
Correct. I was trying to avoid saying those words. It's something I can't pronounce easily. It's like, JTWROS. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Good. So pay attention to how you take title. Kara, and you tell me if this is an out of bounds question, but if you're married, did you get a prenup?
I did not get a prenup.
Oh.
No.
Yeah. What was the thinking that went into that? Usually lawyers love to do lawyer stuff, so I'm surprised you didn't.
Yeah. I mean, my husband and I have been together since I was in law school.
Yeah.
Right. So in my mind, everything that we've done together. And I don't feel the need to protect any of that from him. Because I think he's entitled to it. You know, he went through law school with me. He went through the bar. He's dealt with all of my student loans and continues to.
Oh. Well, that's sweet to hear. Sounds like a good guy. Sounds like a good marriage. Is there anything I haven't asked about prenups and postnups and the idea of romantic coupling as it impacts finances, assets that you think is important for people to know?
I think what's really important that I want people to know, especially seeing it from the divorce aspect, right, is that you really should have open and honest conversations with your spouse about the finances consistently, right? You should both be on the same page and know what is going on in your finances, because so many times we see one spouse come in and the other spouse dealt with the finances. It was a division of labor that they agreed to during the marriage. But what that ends up happening is that you have this person who has zero clue about anything that's going on with the finances. And if you're trying to open up that conversation, right, if you're that out spouse and you're trying to open up the conversation with your spouse to say, hey, let's sit down and talk. I want to know where the accounts are, what's in the accounts. Like,
who's the beneficiary?
Who's listed as beneficiaries on things. If the other spouse gets cagey about it, that's a red flag, right? If they don't want to share that information with you, that's a red flag. But one way to kind of, I guess, head that off instead of, saying, oh yeah, well, clearly I want to divorce you, so I want to know where everything is. But honestly, it's very important for estate planning purposes. right? What if that person, something happened and a bus hit that person and they were just suddenly gone?
Mm-hmm.
How is the outspouse supposed to pay bills, live, take care of the kids if they have no idea where any of the money is, how to get into any of the accounts, any of that, right? They need to have that information, even if it's a fantastic relationship and there's no chance that you're going to divorce, you still need that information.
Right. Ultimately, no one lives forever, right? And life is expensive. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Financial transparency, financial communication, financial partnership, it's all recommended. Very good. We appreciate your time today. Let's wrap up our conversation with my signature question. If your money were thanking you or writing you a love note or a love letter, what would it be acknowledging you for?
I think back to just what I was saying is just always knowing what the accounts are at, what is happening, how to get into the accounts, and just being really aware of the whole picture and always having that top of mind and discussing it with my spouse so that everyone is fully informed.
And, money is like anyone important in your life, be that your romantic partner, your child, your dog. It likes to be paid attention to. It likes to have your eyes on it. It likes that you to know that it's there and that it's working for you. So kudos to you for doing all that. Where can people find you on the internet?
We are at fostersue.com. Foster is Foster. Sue is HSU.com.
Great. And we're going to put that web address in the show notes for today's episode. So if you're in California and you like today's conversation, give Kara a call. Kara, thank you so much for being here today on Love Your Money.
Thank you for having me.